Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're looking at a narrative that has literally fascinated historians and scholars for centuries. When we think of Jesus of Nazareth, we almost automatically picture this towering historical figure, right? The teacher, the miracle worker, undeniably one of history's most influential people. But before any of that happened, before the massive crowds and world-changing events, he was simply a kid. So let's just dive right into this and explore the fascinating mystery of his early life, a period that's often referred to as the hidden years. But really, what do we actually know about the childhood of Jesus Christ? It's a fantastic question, mostly because it opens up this massive curiosity gap. The source material points out that the texts actually reveal very, very few details about this specific period of his life. Honestly, it's almost entirely silent on his day-to-day upbringing. And yet those few fleeting moments that are recorded, they provide an absolutely fascinating glimpse into his early years. So our goal today is to piece together exactly what the source tells us about this super intriguing, unwritten chapter.
Okay, let's start with section 1, Growing Up in Nazareth, the Simple Life.
Now, right after the well-known events surrounding his birth, the narrative completely anchors his life in the small town of Nazareth. And this setting is absolutely crucial for understanding the foundation of everything that comes later. I mean, given his later historical prominence, you'd probably expect a childhood filled with palaces, royal luxuries, and massive crowds following his every move. But according to the texts, his reality was, well, a small town, a simple life, surrounded by entirely ordinary people. He spent his childhood learning, playing, and working very much like any other kid of his specific time and place. There was literally no royal fanfare here. But what's really fascinating here is that despite this incredibly normal, grounded upbringing, he was already distinguishing himself. The sources specifically highlight his kindness, his wisdom, and his deep respect for others. So even though he was blending into this ordinary, simple life, his exceptional character was already highly visible to the everyday people living and working right alongside him. At home, he got this amazing dual education that actively shaped his character. On the practical side of things, Joseph likely taught him the carpentry trade, working and building with his hands. And spiritually, Mary taught him the scriptures and the rich traditions of their faith. The texts actually note that through this super balanced upbringing, Jesus grew in wisdom, in stature, and in favor with both God and people. Moving on to section 2, Missing in Jerusalem, the journey that changed everything. So that quiet rhythm of life in Nazareth is suddenly interrupted by a trip to a really crowded, bustling city. At just 12 years old, and keep that young age in the forefront of your mind because it's important, this pivotal, inciting incident takes place. His family had traveled to Jerusalem for a huge religious festival, joining literally thousands upon thousands of other people who completely packed the city. The sheer scale and chaos of those crowds form the backdrop for what happens next to this 12-year-old boy. Just look at how quickly a normal family trip turns into a total nightmare. Days after the festival ends, the massive celebration winds down, and Mary and Joseph begin the long journey home. But shortly after setting out, they come to the shocking realization that Jesus is missing. They search frantically among their relatives and friends, but he just isn't there. Worried and completely terrified, they rush back into the massive crowds of Jerusalem, kicking off an agonizing 3-day search throughout the city. I mean, can you even imagine the sheer panic of searching for a missing 12-year-old in a packed ancient metropolis for 3 whole days? Which brings us to section 3, the Temple Revelation, a boy among scholars. Finally, after 3 terrifying days, the suspense breaks when Mary and Joseph locate him. But they walk into an astonishing scene. He wasn't crying and he wasn't lost wandering the streets. Nope, this 12-year-old boy was sitting right in the middle of the esteemed teachers and religious scholars inside the temple. He was listening to them intently, asking these deeply perceptive questions, and actively discussing really important ideas. And the result? He was absolutely amazing everyone who heard him. The source material strongly emphasizes that everyone was completely captivated, wondering how on earth a mere 12-year-old could possibly possess such an immense level of understanding. Right in the middle of this profound, almost otherworldly moment of intellect and theology, we get this powerfully human reaction. Mary asks him, "Why have you done this to us? We have been searching for you." And wow, that instantly grounds the narrative, doesn't it? This is the raw, genuine panic, fear, and sheer relief of a mother who has spent 3 days thinking she lost her child. It's just an incredibly relatable moment of parental distress cutting right through all that academic amazement in the temple. And yet,
The response to that perfectly natural parental panic is super profound. Jesus simply replies, "Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house?" Now, this isn't just some clever reply from a kid. The source text highlights this specific moment to show that even at this incredibly young age, Jesus fully understood his special mission and his unique identity. He wasn't lost at all. In his mind, he was exactly where he was supposed to be.
And that leads us to section 4, the quiet preparation, returning to Nazareth. Now, after such a dramatic showing of wisdom and destiny, you might kind of expect him to stay in Jerusalem and start teaching immediately. But that's actually not what happens. After returning to Nazareth, he essentially steps entirely out of the spotlight. He continued to obey his parents, submitting to the ordinary family structure. He worked hard, likely continuing that carpentry trade we talked about earlier, and he learned and prepared completely away from public attention. You see, these hidden years weren't just empty, lost time. They were a highly active, disciplined period of quiet preparation and growth. So the absolutely crucial point is this. Those quiet years were preparing him for a ministry that would literally change the world. The source material leaves us with this powerful concept, the spectacular, monumental events of history, the teachings, the miracles, the massive crowds. They didn't just appear out of nowhere. They were forged in the small town of Nazareth, born out of years and years of silent, unseen, and uncelebrated preparation. Which brings us to our final thought. How might periods of quiet preparation in your own hidden years be setting the stage for your greatest impact? It is so easy to feel like the quiet, ordinary, maybe unglamorous seasons of our lives, our own Nazareth moments, if you will, are just wasted time. But as this history brilliantly illustrates, your most ordinary days of hard work and learning might just be the very foundation for the extraordinary things you are meant to do. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today, and hey, I challenge you to look at your own quiet years a little bit differently going forward.